Welcome back to Hashtag Single with Jeanette Bonner. I am not a relationship expert or sex therapist. I'm just a regular New York City woman navigating the world as a single, independent feminist. Hashtag Single is about having honest conversations with other singles in today's device-obsessed culture. So I hope you'll join me on this interesting, challenging, and complex journey as we navigate the ins and outs of singledom. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Hashtag Single. I'm Jeanette, your host. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. We are back with our one-on-one episode. I have a brand new guest for you. I have the lovely, the talented, the hilarious comedian. Did I hype you up enough? Now you have to be fucking hilarious.
God,
Lisa, thank you so much for being on Hashtag Single.
Thank you for having me.
Lisa and I, this is so fun, you guys. My previous guest, if you listened to our March one-on-one episode, I had a guest named Mona, who is a phenomenal comedian, also from Los Angeles. And she connected with me, as Lisa did, through this really cool community of female creative artists and comedians called Hoo Ha Ha, which, yeah, it's a pun on the hoo-ha, that was founded by the divine Elizabeth Banks. So we are virtual strangers, which makes this even more amazing. It's like therapy. Like, you're just going to tell me all about your love life.
All of my friends anymore are virtual strangers, so it's all good.
Oh, I don't know how to respond to that.
That's it. That's the only way I make friends anymore. Okay. Instagram, Twitter. That's how you make friends now, right?
That's true. It's real life is the same as fake life. And Lisa brought with her friend, Lucas. Lucas, thanks so much for being our voice of the patriarchy.
Of course, I'm happy to provide my sonorous tones.
Oh, how do you guys know each other?
We did some queer sketch comedy in the past.
We were in a group called Mike Pence's Big Gay Nightmare, or Big Queer Nightmare.
Yes.
We were in that group together. That's when we first met, right, Lucas? Or was it even before that?
Yeah,
it was just
that's
that,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did every show, was it around Mike Pence, or was that just the name of the group?
No. We were just a bunch of queer folks that he would have.
Oh, so the nightmare was the fact that you were all gathering.
Yeah. It would have just killed him to know that we existed.
you were all getting together in a group.
Mm-hmm. And existing.
Understood. It's not untrue.
That's hard. It's hard for him to deal with.
How dare you? So, Lucas, you know how the podcast works. We're going to ask you to sit back and listen like the gentleman you are. And Lisa and I are going to chat about what's going on with her single life, and we'll check in with you later.
Awesome. I'm excited to listen in.
Lovely. Lisa,
tell me everything. A little ominous. Excited to listen in.
It is. He's just going to be a presence, but not really here.
Yeah. I love it.
Tell me about your single life. Where are you at right now? What happened in your life to get you to this very place, etc. Wherever you want to begin.
What happened in your life to get you to this place? It all started. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, where am I now? I am I guess for lack of better term, polyamorous.
Ooh.
I guess, I don't know. I or maybe swinger, or maybe ethical non-monogamist. I don't know. And then I'm also pansexual, so I date whatever gender. I don't really care. Like, it's more about energy for me than it is about about anything else. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's all been dating apps since the pandemic, but even before then, it kind of was for me, anyways, because I'm also a sober person, so I don't go to bars or anything like that. I'm not one to go hang out like after a show or something. And even if I did, if somebody did approach me in a bar, it might weird me out, actually. I might be like, what the fuck are you doing, you creep?
Especially going forward. I think that's going to be such an intense experience when you're like, whoa, you're really close to my face right now.
Yeah, right? Like, even watching TV right now, like old shows, I'm like, what? Why are you hugging? And then I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. They're also a cartoon. They were animated before the pandemic. It's fine.
Well, tell me, what are they, the standard apps, or is there an app that is specifically for pansexual, polyamorous, ethical, non-monogamous, sober, single people?
There are apps like that, but they all
Tell
suck.
me everything.
They all suck. There was
have
one.
cute names?
There was so there was one called Thrinder, which is Tinder for like threesomes,
Super.
and it was great. And then Tinder sued them, and they had to completely change their format, and they had to change their name and everything.
What
and
assholes.
Ever since then, they got really glitchy. I don't know if they've cleaned their act up or if they even still exist anymore. They changed it to Field, which is like it was like FEELD, because you can't spell it like a real thing. You gotta spell it funny. So it just sucked after that. But I had met like some couples off of that, and when I joined it at the time, I was with someone and we were in an open relationship, and he's the one who told me about it, and we had a lot of fun with it. And we had like, he had the couple account for us, and then I had the single lady account, because the single dude accounts never get very far on those things.
Is that because people are fearful that those guys are just looking for pornographic experiences?
I mean, well, yeah, of course. And also it's just like, there's so many. Like when I would change my settings on there to see single men, that's all I would see. And then and it's kind of the same with Tinder. Like if I change my settings to do men and women, all I see are men for the most part. And then if I change it to just women, then I see just women for like maybe a few minutes, and then it's like, you're out of options.
Oh no.
And so, yeah, even in LA, like there's not, it'll run out. But it never runs out.
Is that just because
dudes.
all the fabulous women are taken and all of
that,
the
or they're just not on Tinder?
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, is especially like queer women are not very much on Tinder.
If you go deep into the archives, I rail about Tinder almost every single episode.
I love it.
I have
not Tinder, not Tinder.
Friends.
I love railing on Tinder.
Yes, it's a piece of trash.
It's a terrible place, but it's also like somebody that I'm kind of hanging out with now. I've met on Tinder, and I'm like, okay, well, it can't be. Nothing's 100% bad, right?
No, 100%. And it's all about the quality of the person. But in my experience, the quality of the people on Tinder tend to be a little trashier.
I had a date where the guy started yelling at me from the jump. Like we were going to go get coffee, and I got there, and he goes, "Your profile pictures are so small, I couldn't tell if that was you or not." And I was like, "Oh, are we fighting already?" Babe, are we fighting?
Let me tell you everything that's wrong with you.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I should just turn around and leave. But then I was like, no, this is going to be hilarious. And it was. He complained about how expensive the coffee I got was to the barista, and then he yelled at me about telling them I didn't want a straw. And then he yelled at me about how Whole Foods just isn't good anymore.
He's just an unhappy human.
Yeah, oh, very. And then he told me how men and women shouldn't really be together, and that like it's just to fulfill each other's biological needs, and like I was just like, okay. And then I was telling him about, because you ask each other about previous relationships, and I was like, well, my most recent one, he was a bisexual man, and he's like, oh, that's why you broke up, because he's gay. I was like, no, he's not gay, he's bisexual. And he's like, but it turned out he was gay. And I was like, no, it's not how it works.
I'm really sorry that you even matched with that human in the first place.
And I knew better because he had a neck tattoo, but like,
I had my the thing that made me delete Tinder. I had a horrific date, and I talked about it on the podcast in a previous episode. But and when I looked back, he had a picture of, I don't know how I missed it. He had a giant picture of him holding an AK-47. He was in fatigues, but you're like, yo, a man with, I don't care if you're wearing fatigues or what, if you're holding a gun in your dating if you're dating app pictures.
That is some people's match. That is not my
not true. Not untrue.
I did meet a man who we're still very much friends with benefits. I love him. He's wonderful. He was in the Navy for I think 19 years or something. Like, he just retired. He was in there since he was a kid, basically. And he had a picture, but of him overseas in Afghanistan, because that's his whole life, right? Like, he deployed 6 times, but he never showed a picture of him holding a gun. It was all him giving kids candy or something like that. That sounds creepy, but helping kids, because he was a medic.
No, I love the idea of the military. Like, our taxes are going to this entire militia, and they're just giving children candy.
They do, because they want the kids on their side. It's really weird. It's really creepy what we do overseas. But
you're not wrong. Like, you can wear a dress, have a hot dress uniform. Like, I'm all about that. Like, even put your camera.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
I'm into that.
Too.
But you standing there with a huge gun is just like,
that just means that you really like that gun, and you need everybody to know that you're really into guns
and have a small penis.
I don't know. Did you have sex with him? Did he have a small penis?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
No,
I don't know. I have had sex with gun owners, but I've never had sex with the gun guy. So I don't know.
I'm really curious now. Someone's got to have some stats around this.
Yeah. Call into the show. That's how this works, right? They call in.
Are you a gun owner?
Do you have sex with male gun owners?
I really wish we could enable that right now.
Call me now.
I really do. I really do.
This dude had a neck tattoo, but he was also an artist. And so I was like, well, I don't know. That could be fun. I'm never really looking for relationships. I'm always just looking to have fun with people and meet people.
Yeah.
And then if something turns into that. And I know a lot of people say that, but legitimately that's true. He looked like he'd be good in bed. But then I was as I got to talk to him, that first 5 seconds, I was like, oh, he's gonna take choking too far. You know what I mean? He would actually murder me in bed.
Isn't it interesting? I find that women will justify all of the little red flags that go off for us. I see a picture of a guy with a gun and you're like, he's loyal. And then you're you see a neck tattoo and you're like, oh, but he's an artist.
Right.
Or you see a guy that's 100% not smiling in any of his photos. And you're like, oh, I bet he'd be really hot in bed.
It's really sensitive.
I find, yeah. Do you find that you do that? Is that a female trait?
I don't know if it's a female trait. I think men do it just as much. I feel like we all do that because if somebody's appealing to you in another way, you can ignore other things until they become loud enough. And sometimes even when they're loud enough, you're like, well, I'm in it too deep.
But I do feel as women, we try to see the good in people. Or maybe, if we have an instinct of feeling judgy, then there's a self-corrective mode in you that kind of goes, well, wait a minute, maybe he cares for his grandmother. You know what I mean?
I think a little bit more compassion comes in, but I also think a lot more thought comes in. I think as far as hashtag not all men, as far as the men I know, they're not necessarily going that deep so soon. You know what I mean? They're not going to go deep until they really know they really like someone for the most part. So they're not true. Even thinking like that. They're just hot, not hot, 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 hot. I would sit and watch my last ex. I would sit and watch him go through Tinder. I would go through with him, because we were poly. We were looking for a partner for not just him. It was for both of us, maybe, or maybe just him. But either way, it was fun to like go through that together, but I would watch him do it and he would run out of likes. And I was like, I didn't even know you could run out of likes on Tinder.
You came to the end of Tinder.
But not even the end of Tinder. Like, there were still more options, but you're only allowed to like a certain amount of people. And I had no idea that that was even a thing. And it was like, until tomorrow. And I was like, what? That's never happened to me before, because I actually like look at every picture and I read the bio and then I decide, you know, I mean, of course there are those like instinctive, like, no, but if I'm leaning towards yes, I'll actually like look at everything. It's kind of interesting.
No, that's 100% true. I mean, they say that in general, women are more analytical people and are more logistical, right? So in the same way that you could overanalyze a fight that you had with your friend 20 times more, or even if you were in a relationship, you overanalyze the fight and the words that you say 20 times more than a man would if you're in a straight relationship, right? So the idea that you'd go on a dating app and you're taking all of the clues that are given to you, these little pieces in the pictures, right? And the answers, and you're trying in your brain to form a fully formed human to then make a judgment about, do I like that person? Do I want to talk to them? Do I want to invite this person into my life? What kind of value would they add to my situation? I'm not even kidding you. Like that, I feel like I go through that process on dating apps. And I think that's why it's exhausting, because you actually do kind of invest in every option before you say, you know what? I've made a decision. That's not the right person for me. Next, you know? It's like shopping for shoes. Like you should see my shoe shopping process. Like the tabs open and the cost comparison and the coupon Googling, like it's kind of the same process where there's so many options and you want to make sure that you're making the best decision based on the information that's given to you for dating. Honest to God. You wonder why we're crazy.
Depending on what kind of mood I'm in when I'm swiping, if I'm just trying to fuck, like it's a lot more yeses, a lot less nos, a lot less analysis. It's a lot more just like, and it still is energy. It's still based off of like, it's not based off of the looks in the pictures. It's based off of like what they're doing in the pictures. Like if they have a lot of like camping pictures or like adventure type pictures, I'm all in. For some reason, if a dude is living in a van, I'm like, yep, that's my guy. I don't know why. I attract
run away together.
I attract a lot of like van livers. Almost every lady gets a yes for me if I'm in that kind of mood. But if I'm like, I'm snuggly, you know, like if I'm in that kind of thing, it's a lot more analysis and a lot more like.
I thought you were about to say more anal, and I was like,
a lot more anal. It's a lot more. Would he do anal with me? Swipe.
I think that's a good point. Like you're probably going to change your swiping based on your energy and your wants and your desires for the moment.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and Tinder's awful, but and Hinge, have you tried Hinge?
That's really like I'm like 95% only Hinge.
Yeah. I just feel like it gives you more information about the person.
And yet it's brief. Like it's briefer than OkCupid. So I appreciate
it's also kind of briefer than Tinder can be. Like Tinder, you can write a whole huge paragraph and it's a lot to read through. Whereas the prompts on Hinge, like there's a lot of them, but it's like easier. I don't know. It seems shorter.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Talk to me more about the dynamics of poly relationships when you're in. Like,
yeah.
So are you guys... Because I picked up on this when you're talking about the two of you being on Tinder. Are you simultaneously looking for other people just for yourselves, or are you always looking for people to join you?
It was different. It was different every time. So, and I do want to say this, every single, and I've learned this from dating as a couple and from dating other couples. Every couple dynamic is so different, and everybody has different rules, and everybody has different like ways going about it. Like I've dated people who were in a couple that neither one of them were allowed to or wanted to know about the other person's outside stuff. And then, I felt really weird about that. I didn't like that as much. And then me and my person, we had to, like, our rule was that we had to tell everything that we could about our encounters. And it honestly, a lot of that was because it turned us on. Like, if he would go out and have sex with somebody, he would come home and tell me about it while we had sex. And it was like our dirty talk. It was like super hot. And then, you know, if we were like traveling or out of town or whatever, like we would check in and be like, hey, and some of it was a safety thing, you know, like, hey, I'm going to meet this rando
That's
from
smart.
Tinder, like in Peru. So here's the information. Like, here's their picture. Here's
What
where
could
we're
go
meeting.
wrong?
Here's what time. I'll take pictures if I can. And like, and then
Wish you were here.
send me pictures of her pussy. And it was great. So yeah, it was, so sometimes we would go on together. Sometimes we'd go on his Grindr together. And we'd look for like bi dudes who, from my experience with Grindr doing it that way, it was almost always gay dude, or like mostly gay. They were not really into me being there. And I was like, well, why even put that you're bi? You know, but I understand there's a lot that goes into that. And it's really hard for men to be gay or bi or anything other than straight. I get that. So I tried not to be too judgy about it, but I was like, I could leave. Like, you could have just said you wanted just him. It would be fine. But yeah, and so sometimes we'd go on together. Sometimes we'd not. And then sometimes like I would just watch him swipe, or he would just watch me swipe. And it was funny too, because he would always be like anytime I swiped right, it would be a match. And anytime he swiped right, it was like, who knows? And I just think it's funny that, like, because he was just constantly swiping right on everybody, and I was a little bit more picky, and I think that's
analytical and thoughtful.
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit like it was a little telling about like dudes versus ladies on, like, I don't know, like it seems like kind of a numbers game more for the men I know. But yeah, so we'd go on, and sometimes we'd be looking, just like, sometimes he'd be on there just to like see what he could see, and I'd be like, oh yeah, she's cute, you should go on a date with her. And then other times we'd go on like looking specifically for the both of us. And then a lot of times it kind of sucked, because like he'd be conversing with somebody and he'd be like, hey, just to make sure you saw my profile, I'm in a relationship, right? And then he'd just get unmatched a lot of the time. And it was just like, did you not read it? Like, once you're talking to someone, you should read it, right? Like, I don't know, but
I feel like I've matched with a couple people who are poly or in relationships and seeking a third, and said that straight up, like matched, and then was like, hey, FYI, this is the thing. But it's not something that was in their profile, because I would have caught it and not swiped, because that's not something I'm looking for. Yeah. So I thought that was a little misleading. It was sort of like, oh, bait and switch. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what that is. I don't like that. Like, that's why we would always put it in our profile, because it's like, that's a big part of our life. So like, we're going to put that in there, even if it, you know, just as much as like me putting, I like road trips, you know, because that's a big part of my life. I need to know that you like road trips. But like, if I'm in a relationship, I should put that in there. And if I don't, it is a little sneaky. It's not nice.
But what's interesting from what I'm hearing you say is that when you have done this with another person, there's always been consent involved. Like, neither of you are sneaking off to the bathroom to like find if there was something better, or to be like, oh, hey, I've been chatting with this person for 6 months and now I'd like you to meet them.
Right. No, I couldn't live that way, because that to me feels like cheating. That doesn't feel like an open
it's an interesting fine line. I think I imagine like that comes up, and especially at a lot of, probably what I'm assuming, like a lot of jealousy probably comes up a lot too.
It didn't as much as I thought it would. So just to clarify, to me, cheating is not being open about things. So like breaking the rules within the relationship. So like if he had never met or had sex with somebody but was not honest about talking to them, that would be cheating. And he actually did. It did end up happening once. And I think it was because he had a little bit more feelings for the person than he wanted to admit. And he didn't want to like break my heart over that. But like he got a little sneaky about this particular person. And I think it was because he really, really liked them. And but then I was like, well, now you're cheating. It wasn't even about not wanting to share. It was about like not wanting to hurt me.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But like our whole relationship was based on, listen, if either one of us, like, we know this is a gamble. If either one of us ends up finding somebody that we like more, then like, let's be honest about that. And also like, don't we want that for each other? If that happens, like, we don't want each other to be seeking something more, but like if something's better for any of my partners, like they should have that better thing.
Was there ever a situation where like, let's say he swiped on someone and was like, I really dig this person. You're like, no, I'm not into that person. And you fought over it?
No, we never really fought over it. There were times where there was one woman that we hooked up with, and I felt that we were very clear that it was like we were not into the like emotional relationship part of it. Like we were just kind of just wanted to have fun and like keep it light. And it was very clear that not by anything she said or did, just by her energy, that this that she, because she was also in a relationship and her guy was out of town a lot, and she was really emotionally connecting with us from the get-go. And she was very, it seemed like she was going to get very invested very quickly. And I talked to him about it, and I was like, this is going to sound really shitty, and it is, but we called it, her vagina is connected to her heart, because that's true with some people. Like, their parts are connected to their hearts, because some people can't have casual sex, and that's totally fine. Right. That's just who you are. I know a lot of people like that, and it's men and women who are like that. But she was like that. It was like, this is not casual for her. Like, we need to like protect ourselves, but also protect her. And we need to just like not see her anymore. And it was a shame because she was cool. And I wonder if we had been more open to emotional things, if that could have been something really beautiful. But we just weren't at the time, because we're very busy, and we had each other, and we were just like, no, this is just about having fun, you know?
Right.
So I don't know, but yeah. But it was never a fight. It was just like, hey, let's check in about this. And that's the thing too, with our relationship, at least with any open relationship I have ever had or wanted, like, there is so much communication. And it's funny because dudes will be like, yeah, open relationship, I can fuck anybody I want. And it's like,
right.
Hey, guess what? You're also going to have to talk about fucking anyone you want all the time.
Yeah.
And like, you're going to have to really work through a lot of emotions, and you're going to have to, and jealousy is going to come up, because it also means I can fuck anybody I want.
Of course.
But also it means that, no, you can't fuck anyone you want. You have to be checking in, and like, it has to be okay with your partner. And yeah. I
feel like you almost have to be more advanced in your adulthood and in your relationship style, and just mature in your life and knowing yourself, like, more than just like regular like single person dating. Like, you almost have to be like next level. Yeah, because you have to be somebody really secure, because otherwise you're going to get jealous all the time. And you're going to be die. Like, I can tell you that right now. It would drive me fucking batshit crazy.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that.
Because I think my vagina is connected to my heart. I know, Olivia. I love that phrase. I'm going to co-opt the shit out of that.
It's true for some people, and it's not a bad thing, and it's not a judgment at all. But me, that's never been the case for me. Like, I've had casual sex. And when I say casual sex, that doesn't mean there's no feeling. I've had really, really passionate, beautiful connections with people that only lasted one night. And then they were out of my life. And I can still remember them or think about them as this lovely person who was in my life for that brief moment. And like, so it doesn't, and I think that's a big mistake that is a lot of, especially men. And I don't think it's their fault. I think society has really done a lot to all of us and has taught us just terrible, terrible things, especially when it comes to casual sex. But like, you can feel things and still be casual. Like you can. It's different, and it takes a different level of like emotional maturity, but it's possible.
Yeah. I love that. I give you so much credit because, like I said, I think you just have to be like a very advanced human to know yourself so completely, to know what you want, to know what your boundaries are, to be able to communicate those boundaries to maybe not just one person, but to several other people.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds extremely complicated. And the more human beings you involve, the more complicated it gets.
Yeah.
It's like major life Tetris is going on in your brain.
It is life Tetris. It's also like, there's safety concerns that come up with it.
Yeah.
Like there's STI stuff and stuff like that. So it's like, that was another thing he and I would always go get tested together. But that's been a habit that, unfortunately, because of COVID, I've kind of dropped the habit of it, which I haven't needed to, because I haven't been having a lot of like casual encounters or anything, but of getting tested every 3 months. But COVID became an STI in a way. It was like you could tell how a person would be about an STI by the way they acted about COVID. Like a lot of people were like very willing to just take a risk for somebody that they've never even met before. And it's like, if you're willing to do that, do you have herpes? You know what I mean? Like,
so true.
Like, what would you do if you like had chlamydia or something? Like, would you even tell me? But it was also like a really great red flag to see like how casual people were being about it. If people were like, oh yeah, I'm not worried. It's like, okay, then you're not gonna like care about my safety in a lot of situations. But if people were like, yeah, I'm being really careful. Let's meet outside first. Like, let's meet with masks on first. And that's kind of how I was doing it, and then I'd gauge whether or not the person was worth actually sleeping with. And most of the time they weren't. So it was good to do that way. Like I would be like, come walk my dogs with me around Silver Lake or something like that. Cause I was like,
oh, that works.
I can't do the like, the FaceTime stuff or like the Zoom or whatever. It felt like an interview and it was so awkward to me. And I was like,
oh, it's not the best, but
it's a good,
honestly,
it's a good option.
So many of them, I'm like, you know what? I'm so glad I didn't spend any time going to meet you because I just know already right now and I'm good,
Yeah.
I didn't even have to get off my damn couch.
Also, it is interesting because you can see how they live immediately.
Yes. This one guy, I had this FaceTime with this one guy. He legit, and he was like in his pajamas, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You look so great. And I'm just like in bed. And I was like, it's kind of hot and also kind of trashy. Like, I was like, could you sit up at least? Because
but also it's
he
like
was lying down, like with the phone over his face. And I was like, could you just sit up so I don't have to like look up your nostrils?
Right. I had a guy on Hinge that was like, hey, let's do the like Hinge FaceTimey thing. And I was like, okay, cool. And he was just like drinking a lot. And I was like,
ooh. Oh. See, it's all the info you need.
Yeah. And I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm great. And then he was like, show me a titty. And I was like,
wow,
okay.
Wow. You're like, you know what? I have to make dinner. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot I have dinner in the oven.
This was like, well, the thing is this was like 1 or 2 in the morning. So it was like, understandable. It was like, I know what this is. It was the same as like a you up text,
Right,
like,
right.
I know what this is going to be. And then I unmatched with him.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Shortly after that.
Any grown man that uses the word titty is off.
Yeah, show me a titty. And show me a titty.
Are you 13? I don't know. Let's check in with Lucas.
Yeah, hey Lucas.
Lucas, come back
Hello,
to us.
yes.
How you doing?
I'm just so intrigued about the one titty. I mean, I feel like you'd want the pair.
He did ask. He did ask.
Unless he's like into Picasso or something. I don't
He
know.
was like, then show me. He was like, then show me the other one. And I was like, all right, I gotta go. I'm tired.
It's just like a gateway.
Would you ever just show it?
Yeah, I did because we were playing
you did
Truth
show
or
it,
Dare. We were playing Truth or Dare, and I was like, that's fair. That's a fair one.
Who hasn't bared a titty in a truth or dare?
Right?
Let's be honest.
Right.
Lucas, what I want to know, what else came up for you? What resonated with you? Go ahead, jump in.
From what you were talking about, the thing that I found the most intriguing, and it seemed like so right, was that idea that to be in those polyamorous and open relationships, you really have to like know yourself. Mm-hmm. That just so resonated with me because I feel like it's a hard thing to know yourself, but it's also like a lifelong process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes we think like knowing ourselves is finding some catchphrase that we heard somewhere that sounds empowering or something, and that's knowing ourselves. But like literally people spend their entire lives and write philosophical treatises on this type of stuff. I mean, it's at the heart of it is so much as it's communication, because we can't read each other's minds.
Yeah.
And because we are changing, like you said, you know, and when you mentioned what you swipe depends on your mood, that definitely is something that I resonated with, where it's like sometimes you're in the mood for this, sometimes you're in the mood for that, and you will swipe accordingly. I'm a gay Latinx cisgendered male, so that's my perspective. And like sometimes, like if you're on Grindr, sometimes you'll just they have like a tap feature, and it's like, hey, you're just like hot. I just want to send a tap. I don't even want to talk to you. I don't even want to hook up with you. I just want to be like, you're hot.
To make you feel good today.
Yeah.
So do men also do this? Do men over justify any potential red flags that pop up when you're swiping? Do you go through the over analytical thought process that you think that we talked about women tend to do?
Yeah, the red flags. You know, I have a pretty good like bullshit-ometer. So like if I see a red flag, I won't do it. I feel like I know what I want and who I am and that type of stuff. But I will say that like in the past with some relationships when I've been in, once the relationship ends, I see those, I won't say red flags, but those things that were kind of hiccups a little more clearly. Because I think in my mind, a perfect relationship like isn't possible. And I don't even think you want that. I think you should be evolving and changing and growing together. So knowing that someone isn't going to be perfect, it's something that you flow with. You know, it's like a water that is a rushing stream at sometimes it's just a little trickle. You know, it evolves, you know?
Yeah. So are you more open to like, hey, I'm attracted to this person. This one picture seems a little off or weird or alarming, but like, let's see where it goes because we'll figure it out down the line?
Sometimes I definitely will judge the hell out of pictures. You can still be discerning and like you can still care about sort of packaging, so to speak. Like when I talk about like who I'm looking for, I like to say I want the Michelle to my Barack. You know what I mean? I want someone who like that is definitely like a brand, right? But I want someone who is who's going to challenge me and support me and do their own thing, and who I can challenge and support them and push us to be our best versions of ourselves. I mean, that's what a relationship is. On some level, it's helping each other be the best version of ourselves, which again is about knowing yourself. So a relationship is a process of mutual self-understanding.
Do you find do you only date men?
Yes, I'm like super gay.
Okay. We're having a poly conversation, so I'm just getting clarity.
I did go into an orgy like a year ago, shortly before the pandemic, but it wasn't my scene. But I stayed and I did what one does in an orgy.
How did you find out about the orgy?
You know, I was on Grindr, and someone was just like, "Hey, do you want to come to a thing?" And I
naked party?
Well, it was like a Facebook invite. He was like, check us out on Facebook. Like, we're legit. It's a hidden group. And the guy looked kind of cute. And I was like, I've never done it before. And I was like, I like trying new things.
Wait, so you said you did you did what one does at an orgy, but
Yes.
there's all kinds of things that people does at an orgy. So I'm wondering what that even means.
Well, then you
Like,
have
did
to
you
tell me.
participate or did you
Well,
just watch?
To me, an orgy means the scene in Eyes Wide Shut. So, no, it was like, you know, there was like a little bit of naked hanging out, and then there's like random private sex in that room, or like hand job or oral stuff in that room, and then there's like a room with people who are doing group activities.
Okay.
I mean, isn't that what happens? What else?
There are
in
so
an
many
orgy?
different orgies.
I feel like you need to tell me because I don't know.
I've been to some where everyone participates, and I've been to others where it's like there's like this going on here, this going on here, this going on here, and then like somebody brought a Sibian over here, and then somebody else brought their like BDSM stuff, and they're over here, and then like for some reason there's like a kitchen. There's always a kitchen with a lot of snacks, and like some people literally just hang out in there the whole time. And I'm
This
like,
sounds like a convention center.
it is a little bit, but it was just a house. It was just a house.
I always imagine it like sort of like a middle school dance where like the sports kids are in one room doing like one thing, and then like you're like, oh, what's my identity in
Yeah.
this sex club?
You're
Am
not
I the one
wrong. You're
that
not
goes
too
have the
far off.
cheese in the kitchen and like asks people what they did on the weekend, or like,
Except it's
am I gonna-
nicer. It's nicer usually. Like
Go
usually
hang out with
people
the
are like
cheerleaders.
usually people are like yeah, usually the cheerleaders would be like, yeah, sure, you know, as opposed to like, what the fuck is she doing here?
I'm so curious how that's all going to go down post-COVID.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So one of the things that I was doing before COVID, the only way I was meeting people, like I was even not doing apps at this point. I was just going to a monthly sex party, and like that was enough for me, and that was like getting whatever was in my system out of my
sounds
system.
Dreamy, yeah.
And it was beautiful and lovely, and it was just a few hours every month, and they tried to start it up again in June when things were like starting to reopen. And then they realized what a big mistake that was. And they were like, never mind, sorry. And they still haven't been back.
Too
so
soon.
I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't know if I definitely was like, yeah, I'm definitely getting vaccinated so that I can do sex parties again. Cause I was like, I don't know if that's going to be a requirement or like, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those.
They'll check your vaccine passport.
Yeah, right.
Lucas, any other thoughts or opinions you wanted to share with us on anything that came up before we wrap this episode up?
No, I mean, I just really enjoyed listening to everything that y'all had to say.
I wanted to ask you one thing because this came up. Would you weigh in? We were just talking, it came up very briefly when Lisa was talking about how she was with someone who would go on Grindr and they would say that they're bi, but then not really be bi.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would you just weigh in on that dynamic a little bit?
You know what? I do remember that. And I clocked that. And, you know, it's about sort of spaces and sort of the intentionality of certain spaces. I feel like this is turning into like a conversation about environments.
It is.
But, you know, it's like if you want to go to like, if you want to be in a quiet place, you go to a library, you know, or if you want to go to if you want to be quiet, you don't show up to a club, you know? And so like Grindr is so explicitly a place for gay men to pursue sort of explicitly gay activities. And from my understanding of like bisexuality, and my friends who are bisexuality, it's like there's different flows of, you know, maybe you're in the mood for this or maybe you're in the mood for that. So it's like if you're in like a mood for hanging out and doing gay man stuff, that's the place to go. I wonder, is there like an app specifically for like three ways?
Yeah, we did
like
talk.
That was the Thrinder.
Oh, that was the Thrinder.
And then there's a lot of other ones, and they all are really, really bad.
Is there a good bi app?
No. There's like I tried BiCupid. That one's really bad. The thing is like nobody's on them.
Why
The
not?
bisexuals aren't?
Yeah, and I don't understand why. It was like any of them that I've tried, it's like I'll go on a few times and like nobody will ever check in, or I don't know. Like they make a profile and then they just leave. I don't know.
I wonder, well, I mean like Grindr to me is such like a short-term thing. So
Yeah,
it's like,
for sure.
I'm here now and I want the dick or the ass.
Yeah.
Right? So I wonder if like the bisexual mind is like, I specifically want this or that. So like they
so you're
hop
gonna
on,
right.
because it's like a short-term thing. I want this now.
Right. Like if you're bi, you're not bi all the time. You are going back and forth between one or the other. So it makes sense. You could just like, if you're feeling like you're in a straight mood, then you would go on Hinge, I guess.
Yeah. And there's no good apps for pansexuals that I've been able to find.
You have to create one.
Yeah.
That's your next project.
I got some.
Lead the charge, Lisa.
All right.
I mean,
Get the pans people together.
what would the ideal pansexual site look like?
I mean, it would look just like Hinge. It would just be
like
with
you wouldn't set
all
your
genders.
sexuality.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to, right? And like,
Right.
or you could like, it would be a place for bi people too. I would think, because a lot of people don't consider themselves pansexual. They consider themselves bisexual, and I'm still very into that. So it would probably be, I mean, the thing is like all are welcome, but then the trouble is then cis het dudes come on and they're like, I want a bi girl, and it's like, guys,
You're not welcome.
you're
What would you call it? Can I just put you on the spot?
I would
call
call
on
it
your improv skills?
I would call it PANCE, but it would just be spelled PANS. And you'd call it PANCE.
But it's pronounced like TS?
Yeah, PANCE. PANCE. There you go. So it's
Just make sure we have that so it's copywritten in the future.
Yeah, there
this
you
is
go.
the first occurrence
I'll
of
copyright
pants.
it. PANCE.
Guys, this has been a charming episode. Actually, Lisa, you're my first. You're not my first pansexual guest, but you're my first poly guest. So,
Oh, cool.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
including the conversation and inviting us into your life and your story and being so open with a complete virtual stranger. I really appreciate it.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Lucas too. Thank you so much for saying yes to a total stranger about a feminist podcast.
I am here for it. I love it. Thank you so much for
thank
having
you.
me.
I'm so honored to have you both. It's been really cool connecting with people in this time of isolation. So, yeah, thanks again for being open and for sharing your stories. And I look forward to hearing the updates in the future about all of the wonderful sex orgies.
Yeah.
Lisa will go to the orgies. I'm fine without the orgies.
Yeah, you tried it. It's not for you.
You're good.
No.
If you guys liked this episode, if you have someone who's poly-curious, maybe share this episode with them. Give it a like and a follow. Please subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts right now. It helps us rise to the top amongst all of the dating podcasts. And be sure to follow us over at #SinglePod, where I'm trying to share as much funny, hilarious single content as possible, and obviously share some fun clips from episodes you may have missed too. And I look forward to checking in with you next month with our guest expert episode. So that's it for this episode, you guys. We'll catch you next time.